What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Wildcat Wire. It's been a while since we've done an episode, but the winter sports season is coming to a little bit of an end here. So I'm Nate Thomas, and I've got Jake Janisek, and we're finally back, right?
Yeah, it's good to finally be back. Winter sports pretty much finished up. We're going to kind of recap them for you, kind of give us our thoughts on the season, then kind of looking forward to the future. So let's start off with what everyone pretty much wants to hear. Boys and girls basketball. Let's start with boys, just because they had kind of season ended a bit shorter than the girls. So, kind of, how did you feel about the boys this season?
I think at times they showed a lot of potential to finally get something going, to finally play well. And I think at other times it just kind of showed why there's still, a bunch of juniors and sophomores on that team. I think next year they can be a pretty good team, but I think they definitely need to kind of hit back on the practice courts, they still have room for improvement.
Yeah, they have a lot of room for improvement. We saw a lot of flashes this year from them, like players from Dallas Beanham. Saw some good players. Also, like Tristan Gomez, he showed a lot of potential. Just kind of stinks. Honestly, arguably, this team's best senior, Cam Watson, really started coming into himself later in the season. Stinks that they're gonna be losing him because he's a senior. But I feel this team is really young, and I still feel there's a lot of hope for this team in the future with Coach Morrison.
I think the biggest thing coming out of the season was, like what we both said already, they've shown some potential. But I think the big problem for them is going to be, are they going to be able to shoot the ball? Because they were not a very good 3-point shooting team this year. Like, you look back the district semifinal that ended their season against Papio South, I believe they shot like 1 for 13 or something. Like, it wasn't very good. So I think that's like the one thing that they're going to have to improve on. I think Dom Hum can be a pretty good 3-point shooter. I think Dallas Beanham can be a nice shooter for this team. So, we'll see. I think they also need to be a little more fast-paced. Like, I think at times they're too slow to play on the offensive end. But this team was really good defensively, and that was where they were at their best, was when they were playing some decent defense, and that's kind of how they won a lot of games this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just kind of unfortunate that they kind of ended their season in the district semifinals to Pinland Vista South, a team that really beat them earlier in the year. So that's kind of how the boys' season. Kind of, what are you looking forward to with this team in the future since we are young?
I think it's kind of like what I said. Evan Meyersick really improved later in the year. I think he'll be really good next year. When you start to put some of these guys in the spotlight, I think that they can do well. And they can be some pretty good ball players. But I think they just they have some room for improvement, and I think they kind of need to go back to practice and work on everything a little bit more. But, this could be a team that might be a dark horse for a state tournament berth next year.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's kind of move over to the girls. Kind of opposite kind of the boys. I feel that they're losing a lot to next year. Had a pretty good season, I'd say, Nate. Just wasn't able to pull it off in the district championship against Westside.
It's hard saying this because they're a 2 seed in their district. They lost in the championship to Westside by 6, and they led for most of that game, but it's fallen short of expectations this year for that team.
Yeah.
They definitely should have made the state tournament. I think that definitely should have been their goal, and ultimately going all the way for it, because they beat 5 of the 8 teams that were in the state tournament this year. They beat the eventual state champions in Millard North twice. So I definitely think that they didn't live up to their potential this year, but they still had a very good season, nonetheless.
Yeah, they had a pretty good season. Just showed a lot of potential and stuff, but I just feel that, they kind of, it just sometimes like Chase would start just shooting the ball kind of at ends of games, and it kind of, you could say it made the team kind of struggle a bit. Sometimes players weren't making the shots. Sometimes the team looked completely different against one team and the other. It's just a lot of inconsistency with this team, and I think it's just kind of how they just didn't make the state tournament.
Yeah, definitely. They were, like you said, very inconsistent at times, because you'll have Honolulu, who puts up 16 points against Burke in the district semifinal, but she won't score for the 3 games before that and the 3 games after. Mm-hmm. You'll just kind of have times like that where it's kind of like, well, where was this team that beat Miller North? Where was this team that beat Westside? Where is this team that beat Lincoln Southwest? I think that's where a lot of the questions were raised, was how do they go from so good to so bad in a matter of 2 days in between games? Because like we said, they beat Millard North twice, but they also lost to Millard South by 20. I don't know. It just kind of it made me begin to think of how far did that team kind of drop off from the beginning of the season to the end. Mm-hmm. Because they were firing on all cylinders back when they won 3 in a row against Southwest, Westside, and Millard North. Well, I guess they did have a loss to Papio in there, but if you go 3-1 like that in a matter of 3 weeks, I think you're definitely in a good position, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just kind of unfortunate for them. We're gonna kind of go kind of fast into these last sports right here. So Nate, kind of recap kind of swimming and diving. I know we have someone in our class, Gabe Paredes, who is pretty big on the swimming team. They had a pretty good season, I'd say.
I think
Boys
they
did.
Yeah, they had a very good season. Mm-hmm. Obviously they fell a little short of their expectations. They got 3rd at state. They got 2nd at Metros behind Creighton Prep. Prep's won state I think 14 years in a row now, so there's almost no way anybody was catching up to them. But when they went into state, talking with Gabe a lot, they expected to get 2nd. That was their ultimate goal, because you're bringing home a hardware trophy, and in a way you're feeling like you won state, because no one was going to touch Creighton Prep. Mm-hmm. So obviously is still a really nice season for them. They improved a lot. I don't quite remember where they finished a year ago. I think it's 7th or 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So
then they did win and they did get a break a school record with.
They broke multiple school records
this year.
Matteo Michelli is only a sophomore.
Yeah.
We'll see how far he comes within the next 2 years. And overall, it's a really nice season for the boys. The girls, I think they will also come out and say that they ended on a high note. Mm-hmm. Because last year they finished last at state, and this year they finished 8th. So there is obviously a big room of improvement for them. I think they still know that they have some work to do. Maybe they're pushing to get top 5 next year, get even better. Audrey Froloff, 2nd in diving. I believe she broke some school records in the pool to the swimming. So we'll see how it goes for her. She's obviously got a lot of potential, and Michelli and Froloff are going to be the 2 faces for the swimming team over the next 2 years.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting to kind of see what they do in the future with that.
Yeah, I think we'll see how it goes next year for them. I mean, maybe they bring back a couple of state qualifiers, and they can get something rattling off starting at the beginning of the season. We'll see how far they go. So last sport now with winter season. I guess if you want to say school sport.
Yeah.
Boys wrestling. So I think there's a lot to say. A lot of good things to say about this team.
Yeah, a lot of good things to say. Camden Russell came out with a state championship on a controversial semifinal that we probably won't get into.
No, we won't quite talk about that.
But yeah, and then also we got a runner-up at state in Levi May. Overall, I think this team did pretty good. I mean, obviously you want to get a couple more, state champions on your team, but overall I don't think they did a bad job.
No, and I mean, Camden Russell finished second last year. Levi May, I don't even know if he qualified for state last year.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to go all the way to runner-up, he had a very good season himself. Camden had a terrific season. Ethan Valencia got 6th at state. I know, obviously, he was fighting for bronze medal on Saturday in the state tournament, but, there's a lot of good things to say about that team, especially with the leadership of those two seniors. Definitely looking forward to seeing, maybe Valencia can be the one in a championship match on Saturday afternoon in February of next year. And then, so one of the teams that I followed, I mean, I've already said that they're not a school sport. The Millard West hockey team. I have a good friend who plays hockey. I've talked a lot with some other players, but I feel, I don't know, it's kind of upsetting that, they didn't win the state championship this year because they finished second in the regular season standings behind Millard South. Millard South eventually won the state championship yesterday. But, I mean, man, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth when you get to the semifinals and then you drop your 2 games to knock you out of the double elimination tournament. And I think next year that they want to come back even stronger, but I believe they won a state championship 2 years ago. They were runner-ups last year. They were definitely trying to get over the hump again this year, but they just weren't quite able to do it. But Cade Grennan, I think he had 65 or 66 points this year, which is ridiculous. The high scoring and high flying offense that they had, but the defense just wasn't quite able to keep it going for them to be the complete all around team.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that they just weren't able to kind of get off and finish, but would you say there's still a lot to look forward to with the kind of hockey team for the future? Or they're losing a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really tough for them because they're losing their 3 leading scorers. And then they're also losing, one of their starting defensemen. So 4 of their 6 starters are going to be gone next year. So I still think it's going to be really tough for them to try and come back from that.
Yeah, but there's a lot to look forward to next year for our winter sports and a lot to look forward to spring sports. I think that's going to do it for us here on the Wildcat Wire. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at WireWildcat. I'm Jake Janasek.
And I'm Nate Thomas. We'll see you guys on the next episode.